Morning, Tom. Six. I've been on mute.
Hello and welcome to episode 48 of Tom's Hirschsprung's podcast. I've got a very special guest for you today, very special to me personally. This person works at Great Ormond Street, a hospital that I was there for about 16 years. So I'm incredibly grateful to Gosh, incredibly excited to hear what's going to be said today. And welcome, Paul. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Now, I think before we get into talking about Gosh, I believe you are the first guest I've actually met in person, because other people might not know this, but we did meet at the Great Ormond Street 5K. What we talked about 3 weeks ago, something or other, as we sit here and record. How was the 5K for you? I know you didn't run it, but the how did you find everything at the Gosh 5K?
Well, me and the other governors, we managed to hit 5K from our steps by walking around recruiting people.
Yes,
Uh,
definitely.
so, so it's one of the highlights of our year, recruitment-wise. So we are a foundation trust, and that just means we're kind of accountable to the local population. But we also need to engage and recruit that population. So it was a really great success for us, just in terms of numbers we recruited, but also in terms of the quality of conversation we had with those people that were joining up. And then this is one of obviously the fruits and the benefits of that is we get to go on a podcast and we get to talk about membership to a wider audience that we wouldn't ordinarily meet.
Fantastic. That's brilliant.
So
And
yeah, it was a really great success for us. We recruited around about 40.
that's brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. And for anybody who's not been before, it is a really, really good day. I mean, there's it's not just turn up at Hyde Park and run 5K and go home. There's so many things to do. It's very child friendly as well. There's lots of stalls, I think there was bungee jumping and all sorts of things and trampolines and yeah, everything. So yeah, no, for anybody who's not done it, it's a fantastic day.
Yeah, it's a good
Um,
family day out, I think, as well. There are lots of
Excellent.
families there and it was good.
Absolutely. Yes, I ran it. I ran the 5K with my mum. So we were, yeah, so we got around the course. We ran the whole way. So I was very pleased and yeah, no, and a lovely day and a lovely course as well. I thought you run sort of right across the river and I think it's fantastic.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I've never wanted to do it myself, but then I've always had to do the recruitment stand. That's
Yeah.
my excuse anyway.
Get out of it that way. And just on the recruitment as well, you touched a little bit on it there. But would you mind just sort of explaining what the Foundation Trust is and sort of how you're involved in the community?
Yeah, so being a foundation trust, it means when we applied for it in 2011, I wasn't here at the time, but becoming a foundation trust, it gives hospitals more autonomy to manage themselves, but at the same time, they're accountable to their local population. Um, so it works for other hospitals who become foundation trusts, like their local neighbourhood is their gap. For Gosh, our neighbourhood is the entire England and Wales.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. So we've cast the recruitment net far and wide. But it's something that not many hospitals have cracked is getting that level of communication between its members. So to become a member, you sign online or you fill in a form and you become a member. Um, and there's like three tiers of engagement. Bottom one is you receive the email. I'll get involved once a quarter. Just read it, have a look. It's really interesting. Tells you about what's going on in the hospital, clinical developments. And then there's like a medium level where you read the magazine and you come along to some of the engagement events, come and talk to people. And then the top level is you become a governor. So just briefly, the Council of Governors is kind of like the local stakeholder board. It sits next to the trust board, and then they work together to sort of set the direction and strategy for the trust. And it's a really good way of giving back time, effort. It's a great experience as well. I mean, I'm not sure how many people would get to sit on the board of a multi-million pound organization like Gosh. So it's a good opportunity. But like I said, not many trusts around the country have got that flow of members giving governors how information about how they feel and then governors communicating to members. But we're confident we're going to get it cracked this year. So like this podcast is hopefully the start of a positive ball rolling.
Absolutely. And I think, as you touched on there, communication is just so important. I think in all businesses and all sort of facets, if you can sort of, especially as you talked about sort of the first tier, about just knowing what's going on. Because I know we were talking a little bit offline, and I've spoken to people who have been into Gosh recently, and they find that communication really, really important. And it's just because obviously it can be a very worrying time if your child's in hospital, you're going through, all sorts. Having that sort of what's going on, what research is being done, et cetera, et cetera. It can be very well, is very, very important.
So it was kind of pointed out to us yesterday. It's kind of really obvious actually. We had the YPF takeover, so the Young People's Forum. They come in and they take over somebody's role for a day. So
Okay.
my line manager was 15 years old yesterday. That was very interesting. So we decided to do an engagement event, and it made it crystal clear that when you're recruiting people, nobody's got time for it in the hospital. So when you're in hospital, even if everything goes swimmingly well, you're not in the mood for engagement or recruitment or additional conversations. So that made it quite clear that the only way we can recruit effectively is offsite when the stress is off a little bit, there's a little bit less pressure. So it made it quite clear. So that's our new aim really is to get to these events where there's no time pressure or pressure about being in hospital and sort of get people to have a conversation about what it's like to be a gosh. And it was kind of groundbreaking, really.
Yeah, no, and sometimes I guess also from for many business standpoints, having a different point of view, just or someone coming at it from a different angle can be, enlightening in some facets.
It was also hilarious. We were saying now one of our big pitches to recruit members was to have an online lecture. And she said, no, that is absolutely tedious and boring.
She's
She's
obviously
one of
sat
those
through
things.
quite a few.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that's fine. I mean, she's our target audience, so we really want to recruit young people and find about the young experience. And if we're doing online lectures that's scaring them off in their droves, then it's like, okay, that's a non-starter. We're not going to do that.
Is that potentially because, well, I guess a lot of people had online learning through COVID, and that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, it's fine once or twice, but certainly through COVID and when I was doing my teaching and everything through there, it did get a little bit samey and yeah,
Yeah.
not.
I mean, I used to love quizzes, but I hope to never ever live to do another Zoom quiz in my life. I'm done. It's absolutely done.
I
And
think
so
we
I
all got
know,
sick of them after the second week or something.
yeah, yeah,
Everyone had this
I
great
could
idea.
totally
I'll do
relate.
this quiz. I'll do this round and that round and a picture round and a whatever. And then after week two, we went, yeah, this is not working.
Yeah. And she also said, like, anything online, it gives the impression that you're just ticking a box. If you care, you'll come in person. And it was like, yeah, that's fair enough. So it was a really enlightening day yesterday talking about our engagement ideas. Yeah, so it was really, really good. I mean, I just love talking to the people from the Young People's Forum because they're just, I'm not sure of the experiences they've had, but they just all seem so mature and so driven in any field. And it really is just so refreshing. And I think about how I was at their age. It's just, comparison is unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but as you said, that they are your target audience. They are hopefully the future governors, the future members, the future the future people who will run the organization.
Yeah, I mean, we would like them on as governors, but at the same time, we understand it. Like, it's very formative, those years of your life, and you have to sort of really study hard. But at the same time, having, being a governor at Gosh on your CV or your UCAS application, that's not bad either.
It's true, very true, very true. And then if we move on as well to just the patient care of Gosh. I mean, obviously everybody who has been through Great Ormond Street and even people who haven't but have heard of Great Ormond Street will know that it is world renowned in terms of its care that it gives its patients. Obviously, I was sent there very young. I live nowhere near London, um, and I was sent there because of the specialist care that Gosh provide. Um, so in terms of that, why is Gosh sort of so world renowned for its care of complex conditions?
Good question. I think it's a reputation built up over time,
Yeah.
incrementally. Um, for me as an employee, I think our values are really, really powerful. So always caring, always one team, always expert, and that permeates everything we do. We have a very, very sort of catchy strategy above and beyond, and we all feel like we're unified in one direction. But I'd say the feedback that I get more than anywhere else is that we are sort of a child first and always,
Hmm.
and it's more than the care. It's the school time. We keep that going for them, and we have plating, which I think a lot of other people do. The charity is very good, and they provide the plating. Plating just provides so much for the patients. You know, they provide like birthdays if they have their birthday. The patients have their birthdays here. Christmas, give them like just like creative play things to do during the day or in the downtime. Because I could imagine the downtime is quite bad. My only hospital experience was with my partner when we were having the child. You know, obviously nobody cared about me sleeping in an uncomfortable chair. Games, so no one cared. But the downtime was just so mind-numbingly boring.
Yeah,
So um, with a child here, I can imagine it's just tough. So I think the play team are doing really well. Uh,
absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think, and I can talk from first-hand experience. I know we're going back 15, 16 years or whatever it might be, to when I was there, but all of the operations I had, it always felt as though it was child centered and child first, and that and that was so important to me and so important to my parents at the time. Obviously, when you're going through um, a lot of the surgeries that I went through were sort of life-saving surgeries. So when you're going through that sort of stressful time, knowing that you are in the very best hands is, I can imagine, is incredibly comforting.
I think one of the best things we do here is the trust board. They start off every trust board with a patient story.
Mm.
So it helps keep the trust board connected, like right at the start, before they have the finance report, the performance report, the annual reports, they have a patient story. And they're not always singing Gosh's praises. Sometimes there are things we could do better,
Okay.
and it keeps things kind of very focused. The non-executive directors do walk rounds, and again, you know, they don't always hear glowing praises. There's something that we could do this better, we could do this better, we could treat staff better, we could do this. So I think having an open and honest approach to how we do business or how we deliver care, but also looking to always improve. We're never sort of resting on our laurels.
I think that's incredibly important. I think and then it goes for any business, doesn't it? You want that honest feedback, and sometimes it is difficult to hear. Sometimes I'm just sort of talking about this podcast as well. Sometimes I have made changes based on feedback that I thought was going really well, and people have fed back and gone, "Yeah, I don't like this. I wish you could change that." And I thought, yeah, actually, even though it's difficult to hear, you're right, and then it makes things better. It's really good to hear that it's not just you go around and everybody says everything's 100% wonderful and perfect and great, and you take action with things that you can change and things that you can improve. I mean, that's really good to hear.
So I think so I'm not really patient facing my role. I try to be more with my engagement, but like I said, we're just sort of getting that off the ground. Probably the most public facing thing I contribute to is the annual report. And we keep trying to make it so like an 11-year-old can pick it up and get something out of it. Fortunately, there's a lot of tick box content that you need to add, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
but we do try to make it so that, you know, you could have a look for it and get something out of it. But that gives you the honest appraisal of where we are. And, you know, we set the high bar for where we're targeting. We don't always make it, and these are reasons why.
yeah. No, that's fantastic to hear. And in terms of engagement as well, um, how do you sort of engage with the community in terms of? I know we talked a little bit in terms of membership for young people and local people, but how do you sort of get out to the community?
So that is in its fledgling stages. So I think in previous years, our focus has been on recruiting more members. Um, but in the membership committee of late, we've looked at let's move the metrics away from pure recruitment and look at quality of engagement. So the metrics we use now is how many clicks does our newsletter get? So at the moment we're about 30-40% each quarter, and that's been
Yep.
rising from 16. So we're looking at like I did a lecture from NHS England about how to improve your newsletter, and just things like sending it on a Tuesday, don't send it on a Friday where people are thinking about the weekend. Have a call to action, make it colorful, don't be vanilla or anodyne or boring, make it pop. Just things like that. And also we've got our elections coming up that open in November. We're judging ourselves by we want contested elections. So we want people to want to be a governor and sit in the election. That's one measure. We want a higher voter turnout. We want people to care about who their governor are so they can step out and vote. So these are all like quality of engagement measures, and also like how many people turn up to the events we run. So for instance, the Race for Life, we had 40 people sign up. That was a very, very good grade. We had our AGM, we had about 50 people turn up, which again was very, very good for us. So now we're about getting connected. So when we were looking at previous strategies from 2011, we had quite a good connection with the Bloomsbury charity, Coram Fields, the Brunswick Centre, all the local main areas. We had good connections, but those sort of connections sort of went away. So we're looking to get back into schools, talk about the importance of being a governor, looking to talk to patients where we can, maybe have leaflets in their discharge letters. We're just starting from afresh,
Yeah,
essentially.
fantastic. And is it sort of a case of, if you send somebody a letter, like you said, if you send somebody a letter on a Friday afternoon, they're not going to read it, or a newsletter or whatever. But if you were to ask them face to face, they'd say yes, absolutely. Is it sort of that kind of dynamic?
So I think the perfect example was we did our last recruitment event in autumn in the lagoon, like this the restaurant at Gosh, and we gave out 20 QR codes. Nobody joined.
Right.
And I think it was kind of made clear yesterday, it's probably because they're in hospital, they don't care. And plus, additionally, they're hungry.
Yeah, yeah. There's more important things to think
Yeah,
about.
the two in combination, they just don't want to talk to me about membership. There's more important things on that at that time. So it's about meeting people where there's less pressure in the community,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then making them aware that they can give their feedback or give how they feel, how what their experiences was to the governor, and that will go straight to the heart of the hospital. If they give their feedback, it will get listened to, it will get discussed.
fantastic. That kind of brings me on to my next point, really, in terms of how do members influence sort of hospital decisions, sort of and policies, I guess, through feedback. How does that kind of work?
So each with of all our patients in England and Wales, we've divided them into three tiers essentially. So there's the London, the home counties, and then the rest of England and Wales. And each patch has governors proportionate to where our patients come from. So we get a few patients from England and Wales. So we have one patient governor, one public governor, one parent caring governor for that rest of England and Wales. And then we have two of each for home counties, and then we have three of each for London. So in total, and we have five staff governors, and then we have five appointed. So in total, we have 27 governors.
Okay.
Now, if you think of them as like the tip of the pyramid, they are the representatives of all of that patch. So, for instance, our member of public governor feels very daunted by the fact that she represents the interests of 3,000 members.
Yeah, that's a lot when
But,
you think about it.
but like I said, that communication isn't happening. So ideally, we'd be getting even just two or three emails a month would be fantastic. Like, this is how Gosh is doing. Thank you. This was my experience, or just some sort of information would be good, and that would show that it's working. Now, to do that, they would email foundation@gosh.nhs.uk, and then I would direct it to their governor, and then their governor would take that information to the Council of Governors meeting, where they would talk with the trust board.
Yeah,
That's how it is.
absolutely.
So their
Absolutely.
feedback would get transmitted directly to the heart of the hospital.
That's brilliant. So there's a direct line of communication there.
Yeah, there's a great mechanism that just aren't being used.
Right.
The
And
only
I
emails
don't,
I get are people asking to leave the membership.
and I presume the aim in the future is to effectively make that as streamlined as possible.
To advertise it, to broadcast it, to I think the offer of when people join as a member, they get like a generic letter. I think we could do a lot better. I think we could say, these are your governors, these are their biographies. If you want to talk to them, this is the email.
Yeah,
Making it a lot more worthwhile and a lot more human.
fantastic.
I think that's the
And
plan.
in terms of when people sign up, um, what kind of benefits do they get? I know we've mentioned a little bit about the tier system, but in terms of if you were to sign up today, what would you be receiving?
So we don't want to be too intrusive. So I think it's you get out of it what you get, what you put in. So like I said, the bare minimum, you get a newsletter that get involved, which is we try to make that light-hearted, not walls of text. We give you links if you think, oh, want to read more about that story, you can read that. But if you talk to the governors, their experience is they really love it. So some of them have helped sit on stakeholder panels for the chief finance officer and the chief operating officer. So you get
Right.
to kind of effectively sit on a stakeholder panel that influences the decision who they're going to appoint. The governors appoint the chair and the non-executive directors. They get to observe the assurance committees, which are like the audit committee, the finance and performance committee. You get to see some amazing non-executive directors. We have some great non-executive directors here. You get to see them in action. I think even just from like a CV experience or just exposing yourself to a boardroom environment with some really high flyers is a good experience.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the membership offer we do need to work on. So I think we were thinking about the lectures, but I think we need to revisit that. I think in time we are considering a lot of things. Like, if you sign up as a member, you might be able to go do a tour of the laboratories,
Oh
or
wow.
um, come and see the beehive on the hospital roof.
Yeah.
We're looking at the opportunities that are feasible that we can offer.
Yes.
We want
Yeah.
to make it more enticing than just a welcome letter and a newsletter. Because I can understand that is a little bit, if it's vanilla, we're trying to avoid that is pure vanilla.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. 100% vanilla. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
reiterate vanilla.
Uh, And I get the point as well that especially if it's an email or it's a letter or whatever, people can sort of look at it and go, "Oh, I'll deal with that later," and then later never comes, and then it just rolls on and rolls on and rolls on. Whereas if I guess it comes back to marketing, I guess, in terms of it being eye-catching and you know dynamic, etc., etc.
We've got some good opportunities coming up. So the Gosh is refreshing our strategy. The Above and Beyond is coming to the end. So we've got next year for that. We've got the new membership strategy, and we're also refreshing our values. So when we last did that in 2011, we involved all our members, and that was really, really good. So it's about what are the values that you want to see Gosh embody.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we continue along that line, in terms of the future, you sort of touched a little bit on some things that you'll be doing. Where and obviously the main thing would be to have more members, more people engaged, etc., etc. But specifically, where would you like to see? Because I know you've talked a little bit about a lot of things that you're doing are in very early stages. Where would you like to see that sort of community engagement go in the future?
So we also, at the membership committee, we look at the demographics report of our membership. So we would like the demographics to be more reflective of the national network. So we have quite low on male members, we have quite low on BAME members, um, and we also actually have more 70 plus members than we do 10 to 17.
Right.
So I'd like to address that. I would like to have more children as members,
Yeah.
young people, sorry, as members, and I'd like to have them on a pipeline to become governors. By that, I mean I'd like to have them engaged as members, attend our events, provide the feedback about their service, and just keep in touch. Just once a year, once every 2 years, and then when their seat comes up for election, they're ready and they're ready to stand for election, become a governor, and give back to the hospital.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think it's always looking to the future, isn't it? And when you look to the future, you look to the younger generation, I guess.
Mm.
But no,
I'd also like to see that communication be used.
mm,
A message from a member. Dear gosh, I would like to tell my governor this was my experience.
yeah,
And then we could do a you said we did, and we wouldn't just sort of let that information go into the ether. We'd be able to say, thank you for your question. We took this to the council, this was the outcome.
yes.
That feedback loop. Um, and even if that happened just 3 times a quarter, to 10, 12 times a year, that would be more than we're doing now. And I would be thrilled with that.
And that kind of comes back to being valued as well, doesn't it? Because I think we've all sent an email and it's just either ended up in junk or someone's looked at it and gone, yeah, I'm not going to answer that. And I think, and to be honest, probably I've probably done it the other way as well and just gone, yeah, not going to deal with that. If it's something I don't want to answer. So I think it's about that feeling valued and going, right, if I email this person, I know that, my outcome might not be exactly what I want it to be, but I know that that person's going to listen. I know they're going to take it on board and they're going to do something about it.
Hmm. Maybe it might be too dreamy, but for members to know who their governor representatives are.
Yes. Yeah.
We have such a diverse group of governors, and they are so enthused. And I think last year's the strategy for the election was to have new members who are engaged to make newly engaged governors. And I think that's worked really well. So hopefully, see some of the members we recruited at Race for Kids. Hopefully, we'll see them as governors in the next 2, 3 years.
That's fantastic. That's brilliant. And you kind of you pop up as you said all over the place doing doing different sort of trying to get people and recruited. In terms of where people can find you, we've said about the Race for Life where I met you, and you said a little bit in and around the hospital. Have you got any places that you're coming up or going to have stalls and stands where people can find you in the next few months or so?
Unfortunately, the charity have wound down their events for the rest of the year, and they
Okay.
don't have the Santa Dash anymore. But we are going to be looking around. We're going to try and network. But if any of your listeners would like me to come and present, I'm happy to try and get a stand, get a governor to talk about their experiences. Gosh, yeah. So do let me know.
Fantastic. And how do people get into to contact with you to do that?
Foundation@gosh.nhs.uk.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know
Yeah.
you've been incredibly busy, and I really, really appreciated you coming on and also appreciate just the level of work that you do. As people know, Gosh has a very special place in my heart. And just from me and from everybody else the hundreds of thousands of people that have been through Gosh in some form or another, I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me on.